Purdue is the first team to release their non-conference schedule, proving once again that Matt Painter, he's not afraid to play anybody.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, folks? Happy Friday, and welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, a daily national college hoop show part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are your co-hosts. I'm Andy Patton. He is Isaac Schade, and you are joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. I want to thank all of you for making the show your first listen or your first watch of the day. Remind you can check out this show ad-free on Amazon Music, and that today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox without a console needed. Head to amazon.com/FireTV-LOCKED-ON to learn more. Well, Isaac, we got a schedule-focused show today on Locked On College Basketball, talking Purdue, the first team to release their non-conference schedule. Their Saturdays in December are loaded up. Going to be so much fun to watch these games. We got another fun week one matchup added to the schedule. Take that, college football. We got some phenomenal matchups early in the season. Plus, Will Wade schedules a home-and-home with a mid-major team that he knows very intimately. Excited to talk about that. Excited to see more of these mid-major home-and-homes. Isaac, fun stuff today. Also, we found out we got a new pope, and our new pope is a Big East legend, went to Villanova, also did some work at St. John's. Very cool to have our first ever American pope, but also a pope with some college basketball ties. What's not to like about that? Isaac, go ahead. Tell me.
I was just going to say, speaking of take that, Mark Pope. You're the least famous pope now in America.
Did you see Rothstein staying perfectly in character? Got a tweet that said,
gosh.
"John, what do you think about this Pope situation?" And he said, "Well, I like Mo Diabate. That was an underrated addition for Pope."
Dude, that is one of my favorite Twitter trolling things that I love that he does that.
Everybody knew it was coming, but it was still funny. It was still funny.
So good. I absolutely love how he handles those.
Oh, man. Isaac, let's talk Purdue. Let's talk Purdue hoops. Non-conference schedule is out. I'm going to rapid fire go through it for you real quick here. And then we're going to talk about why it's important that Purdue, or why it's important that we've already gotten at least one high-profile team to have already announced their non-conference schedule. Here's what the Boilermakers released on Thursday. Exhibition game. First, they've got an exhibition game at Kentucky. Rupp Arena is going to be rocking on October 24th. They also have another exhibition game against University of Indy, IU Indy, former IUPUI, right? That's who that is?
Yeah, it's like a combo of two schools. I forget the whole thing. I got in trouble for getting it wrong. A fan got on to me last year, Andy. It was bad. It was real bad.
Yeah, about getting it wrong. Then they start the season, the official season, on the 4th of November against Evansville. 3 days later, on Friday the 7th, they play Oakland. Then on Thursday, the 13th of November, they're at Alabama, part of that home-and-home series against the Crimson Tide. Then on Sunday the 16th, they host Akron. Then they're in the Baha Mar in the Bahamas. We know a couple of the teams in that event, although we do not know every team. We know Memphis and Wake Forest are going to be in that event, but there is a fourth team to be determined. Those games right before Feast Week, the 20th, the 21st of November. Then Black Friday, they take on Eastern Illinois, and then that's when we get into those really fun Saturdays in December. Saturday the 6th, they take on Iowa State. Saturday the 13th, they take on Marquette. Saturday the 20th, they take on Auburn in Indianapolis in the Indy Classic. And then the final Saturday of the month, or actually this is on Monday, Monday the 29th of December, they'll host Kent State. Isaac, talk to me about how, first of all, let's talk about the schedule, but also let's talk about the fact that Purdue has already released their non-conference schedule. We're recording this on May 8th, and we already have a full schedule for Purdue. That is unheard of in this era of college basketball.
I'm really grateful for it, man. I mean, and the Big Ten has also already released the conference, not like dates and stuff, but who they're playing. So we know all of Purdue's opponents already, which is really nice. But
almost Andy, all of them. We got one more in the Bahamar.
That's true. Actually, great point there. And we don't know the matchups. So I sit corrected because I'm not standing up. Andy, what I love about this is as we kind of start moving into the offseason, we're kind of not quite to the point where we know who's pulling out of the NBA draft and all that stuff yet. So it's great from a content standpoint to be able to start dreaming ahead, to start salivating about some of these matchups. And so, Andy, what I think is cool is that with Purdue now doing this, other schools are now scrambling to say, we got to get our schedule out there so that our fans can start tearing it up and looking at it and getting excited. So I appreciate Matt Painter and company leading out on this to kind of lead the way. And speaking of leading the way, Andy, I mean, as we look at it, the Boilermakers, we talked about it on yesterday's show. I think BYU is going to be a preseason top 5, and I think Purdue will be right there with them. And so is another reason why it's good for a preseason top 5 team to let us know about their non-con. Andy, it's made up, as we look at it, of 5 bye games, 6 high majors, assuming that 4th Baha Mar team will be a high major. We'll wait and see, but it has been historically. And so, Andy, my question to you is, A, do you agree that Purdue will be a preseason top 5? I can't remember where they're at, and you're way too early, and we haven't updated those in a while. But is this a non-con schedule that is worthy of a team that will be likely a preseason top 5?
Yes and yes for me. Yeah, I think Purdue is going to be in the top 5, and I think we have looked at the tendency that a lot of people have these days to kind of overvalue teams that have a lot of continuity because it's more rare. And I think that there is something to be said for that. We've seen a lot of teams recently kind of come back with a very similar roster, and people inflate them really high, and then they don't do as well. Michigan State a few years ago, Gonzaga last year, North Carolina a few years ago are some notable examples. But this Purdue team returns 3 incredibly talented players in Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, and Trey Kaufman-Renn. It's really hard for me to imagine that this team is not in or around the top 5 when the season starts, and that they don't perform at that level. I think that the depth for this team is still a bit of a question mark, and they've brought in some talented players. But I'll tell you what, I can't say definitively if they're going to end up being a top 5 team, but they're going to get tested. And, when you a few weeks into the season are going to Tuscaloosa to play a road game against Alabama like that, that's what I love to see a coach like Matt Painter do. Is like, yes, those games in December that we talked about, the Iowa State, the Marquette, Auburn, they're either at home or in the state of Indiana for those games. So they're not like challenging themselves in true road environments all that much, but they are against Alabama. Like that is a massive true road game that a lot of teams would not be willing to play necessarily. They have an exhibition road game against Kentucky. I know that won't count, but that will get this team used to that environment. And again, guys like Smith and Lawyer, they don't need to be used to this environment, but some of their transfers coming in from mid-majors, they may not be used to this environment. Their incoming freshman class, they're not going to be used to this environment. So you want to have help to prepare your guys as best as possible. So when December rolls around, and they are playing Iowa State and Marquette and Auburn in back-to-back Saturdays, I should say, they may be a little bit more equipped because of those road games, because of the Bahamas trip. I like the way the schedule's set up to give this team an opportunity to challenge themselves and maybe lose games. Maybe you lose to Kentucky, it doesn't count, but maybe you lose to Alabama. That's a tough one. But then you're more prepared for those big-time quad 1 caliber games in December against Marquette and Iowa State and Auburn. And even their bye games. I mean, Evansville and Oakland. I mean, Oakland's been in the tournament recently. Akron's been in the tournament not that long ago. They got some decent bye games on the schedule as well. So I really like what Matt Painter and Purdue, have put together.
I'm with you, Andy. I agree that I think it is worthy of a team that is top 5. I like how it's spaced out. With that, as you said, that Bama game early, that'll be their 3rd game of the regular season, with the first 2 against Evansville and Oakland. And then that really challenging slate toward that back end of it, keeping in mind that they're going to have a really difficult Big Ten schedule, and we'll see how that comes together. Andy, I'm right with you, and I'm so glad you pointed out the Kentucky game. I think that's critical for this team's development. And I don't know about you, but I am so incredibly glad that the NCAA is finally allowing these to be like known entities, to be televised entities when it makes sense to, because I'm just as excited about Purdue at Kentucky, even though it doesn't count, as I am about the rest of this regular season stuff. And I
like that. Yeah. I like those because they may try to do something different. Like you may see, maybe it'll be like Daniel Jacobson playing more minutes than he ends up playing in the regular season. Or for Kentucky, I mean, there's so many things that they might do. Like maybe there's a big push to play Malachi Moreno a ton at the 5 to see if he's ready to give you minutes in the regular season kind of thing. Like there's so many things that could happen in that game that may not happen in the regular season that make it even more kind of fun and interesting to watch.
Andy, one thing that is odd about the schedule to me, it feels like Purdue at Bama on a Thursday.
Yeah.
That's weird. Like I know we often like the Big Ten as a conference plays some big time Thursday night games. Maybe that's the reason behind it. But it just, it feels odd to me.
Yeah. I mean, that game will compete with Thursday night football almost certainly too. So like that's a tough, you're in Alabama, a very football centric place, and a huge marquee matchup, going likely against whatever Thursday night football matchup happens that day too. Just, it's a little bit odd. It's not a huge deal, I don't think, but it is strange.
Just push it to Friday. Like
right,
we have so many good Friday games in November. Like put this on that schedule. I'd love to know just the reason behind why that's going on, Andy. All right, look, that game is not going to be a Friday nor a Saturday, but I tell you what, Purdue in December, boy, are they playing some great Saturdays. It's going to be appointment TV with Purdue. Plus, in a day and age when teams are getting skittish and shying away from MTEs and leaning into home and homes, Purdue might just be leading the way in that endeavor. We'll unpack all of that in just a second. Right after I tell you about the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Hey, did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with a Fire TV Stick 4K device. No console required. You just grab your paired controller, you subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. You can dive into hundreds of premium titles, things like EA Sports College Football 25 or Call of Duty Black Ops 6 or so many other things, and do that just as easily as you stream your favorite TV shows. It's gaming made simple and all on your Fire TV. With Wi-Fi 6, 6E, and auto low latency mode advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds that you need to stay competitive. But maybe you don't care about gaming all that much, which is me. But guess what? I have multiple Fire TV sticks in my own household because we literally have one on every TV in the Schade household. It can be your family's go-to for all your entertainment needs. The platform is so easy. I love how customizable it is. It's so helpful. And maybe you want to get in on that as well. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. XS Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. It's available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Stick Cube 3rd Gen. Andy, you looked it up during the break there. We don't actually yet know the Thursday night schedule, so I just move it to Friday. Anyway, okay, Andy, Saturdays in the month of December are going to be just so fun. Just assume that you're going to be watching Purdue play a great game in December on Saturdays. And even crazier is the fact that they never leave the state. The first two of which on December 6th and December 13th are actually in Mackey. And then the 20th will be in Indianapolis proper. And so good grief. Nice. So Andy, here it is. Those games. December 6th, Saturday, hosting Iowa State. This is the first of a home and home that was announced back on Valentine's Day. We'll get to all these home and homes in a second, but that will be next year in Hilton. Andy, then the next Saturday they play Marquette, and then the third Saturday they play Auburn in Indy, part of the Indy Classic that they played in last year as well. That was against a different school whose name isn't coming to mind right now. I can look it up while you talk. But Andy, I feel like more and more and more these December Saturdays, year after year after year, deliver. Won't be as electric on the 27th because that's just a couple days after Christmas. Yeah. But those first three, man, are going to be so good. Like I expect when we start looking at our schedules for particularly the 13th and the 20th, it's going to be chock-a-block full. Right off the top of my head, I know CBS Sports Classic is on the 20th, and that slate, man, is going to be good. This feels like a great move for college basketball, but specifically Purdue having these great matchups.
Yeah, and I think it's a product of a lot of things. I think the teams feel more comfortable scheduling these marquee games after they've kind of gotten some games under their belt. They've played a few of their bye games. They've played their feast week, whether it's an MTE or just a couple of games. And then, of course, the fact that it's finals week and that you see very few midweek games in December. I mean, sure. Purdue's a great example of that, where they play Saturday the 6th, Saturday the 13th, Saturday the 20th. There's no other games in between those dates for Purdue because they're just playing one game a week. Basically, it kind of becomes like a pseudo football schedule almost for these teams. And they're Purdue far from the only team that does this. I know Gonzaga did it last year. I think you go down the list of any top 10, top 15 caliber program, that's typically what their Decembers look like, with very few other games, just because they want the finals week is an important part of it, but also they can, they're often traveling farther away, so they can just focus on the one game that week. I think it's great. I think it's great for the sport. I think it's great for us as consumers of the product to get to watch these really marquee matchups every Saturday during the month. It really kind of helps establish them. It's obviously still during college football season, but typically by the time you get to December, it's bowl season, and you're not competing every with a wall-to-wall slate of college football games the way that you are in November, and obviously you're not competing with the NFL on Saturday, so it totally makes a ton of sense. And I love the way that, not only the quality of the opponents that Purdue is playing, but it's set up in a way where, they got Iowa State at home this year, which is great, but then they'll play them on the road next year. And then they got Marquette at home, which is great to have those two games at home, but they played Marquette on the road last year. And then obviously this Auburn game, being the Indy Classic, and they played Auburn in Birmingham last year. So that's kind of that like pseudo home and home. And I'm a strong champion of true home and homes. I prefer that to the kind of like fake home and homes that you sometimes see, but
the semi
home and homes. I still like those, and I still think that they have a place, certainly. And I think that in this particular case, like Auburn and Purdue, I just want them to play each other. Like, they're two really good teams, so I don't really care where that matchup happens. But for Purdue, the healthy mix of these, like, they're truly playing Iowa State at home, they're truly playing Iowa State at Hilton. Same with Marquette. Like, I think that it's great to have a mix. And a program like Purdue being willing to play multiple very, very good teams in true road, true home environments, while also playing multiple good teams in these kind of semi-home environments is fantastic. What I don't like is teams that only do the semi-home and homes, and like every marquee game that they play is not on their home floor, nor is it a true road game. And I wish we got more teams being willing to do that, and they're not really incentivized to do that as much as I think they should be. Obviously, the quad system does value true road games more than neutral site games, but not in a convincing enough way for a lot of teams to actually make changes to the way they schedule it. I also am admitting fully to being a tiny bit biased in this, because as somebody who follows Gonzaga very closely, teams are very rarely willing to play Gonzaga at home, which means Gonzaga is rarely willing to play them on the road, because they don't want to play a true road game without getting it on the back end. So Gonzaga plays a lot of series against teams where they play in Seattle, and then they play a road game in like Nashville. They're playing Kentucky and Nashville this year. And it's like, sure, that's great, but like, you'd rather see those true home environments. And I'm glad that Purdue is willing to mix in both.
Yeah, and I think with Purdue, as you said, the fact that they have 4 of these home and homes and 3 of them are true home and homes, I'm with you. I feel very, very fine to allow them one semi-home, especially as close as Indy is to Mackey and as close as Birmingham is to Auburn. That's great stuff. And by the way, while you were talking, I went back and looked, and like championship Saturday for football is December 6th. And so that is in part why we will see so many of the 13th and the 20th be so high level. What's interesting about Purdue, Andy, is, we've been talking about, they've got those 4 kind of home and homes: Marquette, Bama, Auburn, and Iowa State. 3 of those are in the second year of them. Marquette, this is the second year. Alabama, this is the second year. Auburn, this is the second year. So it's just Iowa State. I wouldn't be surprised if we start at some point, I don't know when, but over the course of the next several months, to hear about more of these for Purdue for the 26-27 season. Obviously the back end of the Iowa State home and home, but I think they will sign some more. And part of this, we think about how Dan Hurley famously last year was like, we will not go to another 3-game MTE. Part of that is he's embarrassed because he just got his butt whipped in Maui. But I think the sentiment is kind of a prevailing sentiment across college basketball now, where we will see like so many more of these 4-team MTEs where you just play 2 games and you get out, and then have more opportunities for home and home situations like this. Obviously, the Big Ten being the lone Power 4 conference that still has 20-game schedule, they're even more handicapped on what they can do. But I love that Purdue can do this. Now, Andy, I know that we're talking their non-con schedule, but also the Big Ten has traditionally in recent years played 2 conference games in the midst of the non-con schedule, typically in back-to-back environments. Purdue is not doing that this year. And I thought this was so cool of the Purdue social media team when they tweeted out their non-con schedule with the graphic and everything. Some rando just wrote back to ask like, hey, I don't see a big gap. Are we still going to get those 2 Big Ten games? And the Purdue wrote back to them. They responded to it and literally said, hey, yeah, we're going to play Big Ten games between Eastern Illinois and Iowa State, and then again between Iowa State and Marquette. So, Andy, it's super cool of the Purdue team to reveal this. And B, when do you expect we might see those Big Ten games?
Yeah, I think you'll probably see them early in the week, like maybe Monday or Tuesday. So it'd be like the last couple of days of November, the first day of December for that first game. And then, something similar to that, like December 8th, 9th, 10th for that second game. So still early in the month of December, I think you're still going to get those kind of bigger gaps for them later in the month between the 13th and the 20th. I don't think they'll have a game there. And they don't have a game between the 20th and the 29th, I think. I think those gaps are still going to stay, but you'll still get these like early week Big Ten games. And one of the things we talked about last year with the Big Ten is they played games basically every day for like the entire, I guess, conference games. Once the conference season fully got started, they had a conference game every day for like 6 straight weeks or something like that. So they're not afraid to have Monday games, Wednesday games, Friday games, like whatever date, I think that they can squeeze these games on, they're going to do it. And so I think for Purdue, you're going to see them kind of still get a pretty good gap before their marquee game, in this case, Iowa State and Marquette, but have a kind of a quicker turnaround early in the week.
Yeah, man, good stuff. Okay, Andy, we need to make some record predictions for Purdue's non-conference slate. As we just said, there are 11 total games, 5 bye games, 6 Power 5 games, again, depending on who they play in the Baja Mar. Well, what are you going with for your record prediction here?
Yeah, I gave them 9-2 for those 11 games. And for me, I think, and I'm torn. My prediction has them losing to Bama because it's a true road game against a very good team. But we're also talking very early in the season, and that's where I think that Purdue's continuity could really help them. They'll have veteran guards, Smith, Lawyer, Kaufman-Wren, like we said, like compared to an Alabama team that's not going to have as much roster continuity. They lose Sears, they lose Nelson, they lose, so many other pieces from last year's roster. I still think that's probably a loss for Purdue, but it wouldn't shock me if it's a win just because of when it is in the calendar. And then I think one of those 3 Saturday games, whether it's Auburn, whether it's Iowa State, Marquette, I think Purdue wins 2 of them. And I think they can reasonably win 3 of them, especially since they're going to have the home court advantage in all of them. But I think they lose 1 of them. I think they win Baja Mar again. It does depend on who that other team is, but I'm going to give them 9-2, and I wouldn't be shocked if it's 10-1.
Yeah. And 10-1 is what I went with, Andy. I was kind of hedging that almost exactly the way you explained it, but like with the game at Bama and them kind of retooling while Purdue is not. And so basically I looked at those 4 higher major opponents that we already know right now. Cause again, as Andy said, we don't know the Baja Mar matchups. We do know that it's Memphis and I've completely just blanked on the other team. Wake Forest. Thank you. I was like, it's a two
there you go.
School. It ain't Notre Dame, but they're in the AC. So I think they will lose one of those 4 of Bama, Iowa State, Auburn, Marquette. But I really think the home court advantage, the gap between games in those December Saturdays, and man, Matt Painter's team could be in great shape heading into the bulk of Big Ten play. Give me 10-1.
Well, Isaac, we're going to continue our conversation about scheduling, although we're going to move away from Purdue to talk more broadly because we've already got so many great games in the first week of the college basketball season. We've talked about how much we want that desperately for college basketball. It's happening this season. Now we got one for the opening Saturday of college basketball. So take that, college football. We're going to talk more about this big time matchup and a few other games putting on the calendar coming up in just a second. But first, folks, have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Because between dining out, online shopping, and just general entertainment costs, it's pretty easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money isn't just another generic budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan your long-term goals. And for our family, especially now with the 1-year-old, we always want to make sure that we are on the same page when it comes to our finances. And thankfully, with Monarch Money, managing money with your partner is smoother than ever before. You can track shared and personal accounts, set shared goals, and stay on the same page without all the extra stress and hassle. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com and you'll get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, Isaac, we've already talked about how opening day for the college basketball season is set up very nicely with some marquee matchups going on in Las Vegas, Arizona, Florida, and BYU Villanova both going on the first day of the season. We got some other really big time matchups that first week, but now we got a big one coming our way on the first Saturday of the season, November 8th. Right in the midst of the college football season. And Rick Pitino and St. John's and Nate Oates in Alabama are not afraid to challenge college football on that Saturday. They are taking each other on at the Madison Square Garden, a tremendous week one game here. Again, there'll be a return game in Birmingham in the 26-27 season. So this is one of those kind of semi-home and home series. Yeah, I mean, semi-home and home. It's a home game for St. John's. Let's not get it twisted here. But what an incredible matchup here between what I expect to be two probably top 10 teams. I definitely have St. John's in my top 10. Bama, we'll kind of see how the rest of that roster shakes out. But so far, so good for Nate Oates' team. And even if Bama's just on the outside, this is going to be an incredible game between two really high-level programs. And I'm just so happy that these coaches are willing to play this thing so early in the year, especially with two rosters that are going to look kind of quite a bit different next year. A lot of teams kind of shy away from these huge marquee games early in the year when they're kind of still figuring out all of their pieces. But these two teams are gonna go at it, and I think it's gonna be a really good one.
Yeah, I love that we're starting to get these coaches. It's like, we said it about Matt Painter earlier, and then we started to learn these coaches. It's like, oh man, they'll do anything. I feel like Tommy Lloyd is a great example recently of like, bro, you're kind of insane with everything you schedule. And I feel like Nate Oates and Rick Pitino are both that way as well. We're just kind of finding that out about the modern Rick Pitino, but we've known it about Coach Oates for a while. I looked at Alabama's football schedule. They host LSU that day. So that's kind of, like a lot of times we look at these and when we thumb our nose at college football and think, well, it's not really a football school, but it's Alabama doing this, Andy. And so that makes me love it all the more. That's really, really cool.
I think we can safely say St. John's is not a football school.
Not a football school, literally. And so, man, it should be another great week one matchup, as you said, and a great way to put kind of a punctuation at the end of that week after such a great start. And so should be two teams that are both ranked pretty high. Curious to see where I would imagine St. John's starts the season ranked more highly so than Alabama. But man, should be electric, Andy.
Well, speaking of Rick Pitino, the next game that we want to talk about here, Kentucky-Louisville. We always get this game every year, but there's something different about the non-conference matchup this season, as this game is set for November 11th. It is a home game for Louisville at the KFC Yum Center. This game is almost always played in December, and yet this year, for the second time, the first time was in 1983, the second time was in 1993, so it has been a very long time since these two teams played each other in November. But this is the deal. They're going to play each other on the 11th of November, and they're going to play before the football teams play, which is kind of a fun thing. The football teams squaring off on November 29th. The article I read did not have specific data of how often that happens, although I imagine it's fairly rare with this game typically happening in December. So fun to see another great matchup here. Obviously, Kentucky-Louisville, both second-year coaches in Mark Pope and Pat Kelsey this next season. We talked about St. John's Bama being a potential top 10 matchup. I feel fairly confident in saying that this will probably be a top 10, certainly at least top 25, probably more like top 15, if not top 10 for these two programs that are similarly going to have very new look rosters. Both teams had completely new look rosters last year, but a lot of the players they both brought in are graduating or moving on. So going to be fun to see how these two teams match up, as it always is when these two schools from Kentucky battle it out.
That's right, Andy. And I love how quickly, thankfully, that Pat Kelsey's been able to turn around Louisville so that this rivalry regained some of its luster. It was blah for those 2 years in the Kenny Payne era. And so I'm very excited to see.
I'll never forget how few people even watched the last time that they played this game at the KFC Yum Center. Was just it was so sad. I'm so happy that it's going to look a whole heck of a lot more full this time around.
Oh, that building will be rocking, and I can't wait for it. Andy, one other scheduling thing we want to mention is Will Wade, now at NC State, has scheduled a home and home with his former school, VCU. And boy, do we love all these Power 5 home and homes we've been talking about. But man, there's something special about a coach that's willing to do it with a mid-major, albeit not all mid-majors are created equal. And I think we would say that about VCU, a team that has literally made the Final Four. Right. And so, Andy, the first game will be this year in Raleigh, and the return game next year at VCU. And really, really cool stuff. And I love Coach Wade throwing a bone to a school that he previously coached.
Yeah, this is the fantastic matchup to do this after Ryan Odom leaves too. I'm really, really excited about this matchup. And like you said, it's great that NC State is going to be willing next year to play a true road game against a team like VCU. Again, it's not all mid-majors are equal, like you said, but VCU has more than earned the opportunity to host power conference teams. And I'm glad Will Wade recognized that, even if it's in part because he used to work there. It's still an awesome thing for the sport and for these two programs. And I'm excited to see how these two games shake out.
Marquette, I expect to see you at VCU next. All right, folks, a great way to wrap up the week. Big thanks to Purdue again for going ahead and sending out their non-con schedule. Hopefully we will get many more of these in short succession. We hope that you all have a great weekend. If you've not subscribed to the show, you can do so on YouTube by just hitting subscribe down there at the bottom of the screen, or on your favorite audio platform by doing it there as well. If you've not joined the Locked On College Basketball Discord, you're missing out, especially as you're jonesing for college basketball all off season. There's a whole host of college basketball fans in there that would love to chat with you. That link is in the show notes. It's free to join. Yes, sir, it is. As always, we want to say apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wild Popes. Shouts to McBruins, the only one of those three we didn't talk about today. We'll talk again on Monday. Andy and I'll be right back with you, but until then, peace.